Hey everyone, welcome back to Outframed Podcast. I have my awesome, amazing, wonderful wife, Michelle. Hey Michelle, how you doing?
How are you?
It's been quite some time since we got together to do a podcast, hasn't it?
It's been busy. It's
It's
definitely been busy.
Yes. What's going on lately with us guys is like Michelle said, we've just been heads down. So much going on. Channel growth, promotions, concerts, new book, so much to get into, along with some world event stuff that I think we'll touch base on. But before we get into all to that, glad to have everyone out there supporting us on Outframe Podcast. I know we got a lot of feedback, Michelle, about you coming back on. So, how do you feel about that?
It's okay with me. I mean, this is just free form for me. This is just us collaborating with each other. No
And
different than
just like
when
every
when when
other
there's
day,
no
right?
microphones involved.
Yeah, no, it's funny because one of our listeners, Carm, he was like, "Man, I had my wife listen to you guys' show, and he was saying like you guys are really great to listen to, and we appreciate you, Carm, and we appreciate your wife listening to us too, and everyone else who's supporting us out there. We do this because we're having fun, and we do this because we enjoy talking, having conversations, and kind of share a little bit of our world with all of you out there.
Well,
So
I'm going to snowball that and I'm going to say the intention would be to help anyone or if they can relate to anything we're talking about basically. And I've seen some of that in motion. So,
yeah, I would agree. What's kind of interesting is the whole thing to me speaks a lot to the volume of like you know um the support that I've gotten, and maybe some of the feedback that I can share with some of you guys today is I do daily posts. Michelle knows this. She has to hear me recite I write my script, and then I try to just stick to the baselines of what I want to cover, but then there's areas where I might freeform it a
I don't
little bit.
have to hear you. I see you talking to yourself in the car and I know what's going on.
He's like, what is going on with this guy? He's just over there reiterating to himself. So it kind of looks like I'm a crazy person. I'm just over here like, la, la, la. It's like that, right? Um, no, but some of the feedback I've gotten from strangers on the internet, people have been reaching out to me directly, sometimes in the comments. Most of the feedback has been really positive. People just, telling me that it resonates with them. One individual had shared that, the stuff that he's getting from our channel in particular is better than the therapy taking, and I found that to be astonishing because definitely not a licensed therapist at any level.
Totally unqualified.
Right? Like I appreciate it, and I will say this. Michelle can attest to it. We've lived a lot of life. We've seen a lot of things. I'm sure there's more to see before it's all wrapped up. But I think we can lend ourselves to those conversations because we have experience with them. So maybe we're not certified in some specialty, but we definitely have that in life. Yeah.
Yeah, I'll agree with that. Lifeologist.
Lifeologist. I'm going to put that on my shirt. So let's catch up a little bit on some things. Michelle, let's do a little quick roundtable catch up on what you've been, busy with, and then I'll bring it over to my side and kind of just bring the audience in for a little journey through what we've been up to. So, and take us in.
I'm just glad we're able to get to this. Next time we do this might not be till August. Who knows? Maybe we'll have to do a midweek.
You never know. We wanted to get these done weekly, but life happens, and I think what matters is, we're making time for it when we can fit it into our schedule. We're very busy. Some of the things that we have coming up in July is we have a Fourth of July birthday. Oh, I'm sorry,
Well,
Fourth.
to be honest, I don't even think we're even going to have time to go on vacation. We were going to squeeze one of those in, a little camping sesh, but I don't think we're even.
I mean, we'll try. I
Which
think.
I know at least one of our kids is.
Well, we went to Sequoia last year, and I really want to go to Yosemite this year. And I'll tell you, it's definitely something you got to plan in advance. I should have done that probably a few months ago. But I've been very happy with the amount of things we've been busy with. Yes, we're not going to certain areas, but just watching the kids' involvement, like Randy's and doing all types of advanced band work, and did that through summer a little bit. Evie's really coming into her own a lot, don't you think so? I feel like she's really starting to become self-identifiable.
Evie's coming into her own. Yes, I agree to that. She's so, and I'm sure other people who have kids that are close in age can relate to this. But as they grow older and when they are adults, that they're still friends, they're still relying on each other, they're still tight. They have a problem, they go to each other. I would love for it to work out that way. Um, so that being said, Evie's always been very tight with Serenity, but I've always wanted her to find her own individuality. Like, oh, Serenity does band, so I'm gonna do band. Oh, Serenity does this, so I'm gonna do that too. Serenity reads this book, I'm gonna read that book. I would like her to find her own spot, and I've noticed her finally sort of coming into her own as of maybe the last year.
Yeah, I can tell you she's
And her taking her own path of, well, Serenity's doing this, but I'm not really in love with it, so I tried it and it wasn't really something I want to stick to forever, so she's going a different direction. And so I like seeing her do that, and I like seeing her have her own interests.
I do too.
I
What do you
love the diversion. I don't want them not have anything in common anymore to divert too much. I don't know.
Well,
Fine line.
they're coming into their own, and that's something you and I have talked about early on. Like we want them to be individuals. We'll set them in activities. We'll have them, go after things that um, of their interest. But we might have a few things that we want them to try out because it might be good for them. And I think we've been pretty solid about our approach. We did ballet, gymnastics, now martial arts, and what's really interesting is seeing the entrepreneurship starting to come out. Serenity's really got into some voice acting
Mhm.
concepts. She's starting to think about branding. Evie, she's gotten into her niche, which is writing, and I love watching her rewrite stories. She does it all day. She'll be on the iPad rewriting stories or take an existing format and kind of turn it on its heels a little bit. And I told her, I said, Evie, a lot of people they make a really great living off of you know screenplays, rewriting stories they're kind of like fan base or parodies, but um, it is an entire niche for herself, and she's really growing into it. Even as of yesterday, she was playing chess with Coach Christian at practice.
Mhm.
And I took this great picture of the two of them, and she's so entwined with like what's going on. She's like, hey, you know what? I know how to play chess, but I want to do this right now. And it's just it's a blessing, and I'm sure all of you guys out there who have kids uh, know it's incredible to have that first row seat to watching your babies grow up. And you know what that means for you and me, Shell. Once they're all grown up, I guess we're just me, you, and the dog then, right? So it's gonna get a little bit quieter around here as we go, isn't it?
Have to be careful. Like
Hey, you know what? We can
as
all
I sit here nursing the hangover from.
hey, that
In case you
concert.
didn't know, woo, I must be good at covering it.
Hey, you know what? I don't think they knew, but maybe they were on to something. But I tell you, that concert was incredible. For those who don't know or don't follow us, um, we have these certain venues and concerts we always want to go to, right? To call it like the bucket list, and we have some concert regrets for sure. Probably my biggest one, right? Because I was a big fan in high school and throughout life
I know where
was
you're going.
I know you know where I'm going, right?
It's
Because
one of mine too.
yeah, and it was Lincoln Park, and
Yep.
before Chester passed
Didn't
away,
get to see him, and my sister saw him 4 times. I'm
and
just so jealous.
and I would have loved to have seen him. Definitely right after the Meta Aura. I think there was a live concert they did in Texas. I have the CD, and it's like basically both of those major albums. back to back, and it's one of my favorite live albums. But yeah, it was a huge concert
That's a big
regret.
one for me. Yeah, my
Well,
other one is David Bowie. So
oh, David Bowie, my gosh,
big fan, never saw him.
what's your favorite David Bowie song?
Favorite?
Yeah.
I love that. Okay, so this is a fun story.
Okay.
I'm gonna go with his favorite song of his own because
Okay.
when I don't even remember. I was a teenager.
You're a
I
teenager.
was a teenager, and
Okay.
I called a radio station because they said call in and you can talk to David Bowie. So I waited. So I called and they put me on hold and they said I was going to be waiting for a couple of hours. Radio, and
No way.
I was young, okay,
Okay.
and I really wanted. I was a really big fan, so I wanted to talk to David. My sister and the younger sister, this kind of goes back to what we were just talking about,
Right.
glommed onto everything I liked, and so she was obsessed, and she was like, "I want to talk." To you." She took the phone from me and stood on hold for 4 hours and clammed up when he got on the phone and didn't know what to ask him. So she said, "What is your favorite song that you've written?"
Wait. She 4 hours in the queue, just probably listening to music on repeat, the same song, right? Finally, she gets him on the line, and she chokes up.
Yeah. So that was the only thing she could think to ask him. And he said Heroes. So I'll go with that.
Okay. Hey, great song, honestly. David Bowie's incredible. I can see why it would be a concert regret for sure. But for last night, we didn't have a concert regret. An artist that I really like, Michelle's a fan too, and
Than me, but yeah.
I absolutely adore him. I think he's this generation's Michael Jackson, and I know that's a tall order as two individuals who grew up with Michael Jackson. Another concert regret, by the way. Um,
He likes to think he's Michael Jackson.
hey,
Honestly, I tried to get tickets for him years ago and I was like, the pricing on the tickets, I was like, he's not Michael Jackson.
you know what? I'll tell you. I think it was the story I was reading yesterday. I guess his main influence is Michael Jackson.
Of course, you can't
You
tell.
can, oh yeah, you can totally tell. I mean, he's just got that whole vibe about him, and I'm like, yeah, someone say, hey, you copying, but I think we copy our heroes a lot of times. I think that's why we look up to people. We take a little piece of what they brought. Favorite metal band Metallica copied a little bit from like guys like Diamond Head and of course Black Sabbath, main influence there too.
You know what
But
I like doing? I like
what's that?
watching new comedians and then guessing who they're because you
Right,
can sort
yeah.
of tell by their style.
Right. Who'd you say Ryan Reynolds'
Okay, so
style?
yeah, I did this years ago
Right.
with Ryan Reynolds, and I kept getting a Steve Martin vibe off of him,
Ooh.
and I was like, I feel like that's probably one of his influences. And sure enough, I think later or something, I don't remember. He came out with some interview, like they came out with some interview with Ryan Reynolds where he said that his biggest and I was like, okay, well,
That's incredible.
yeah, you can catch it in their acting styles. You can be like, okay, I can see,
Yeah.
that,
Oh man.
like Jim Carrey probably was a big Jerry Lewis fan. You know what I mean? Like,
Yes, I think Jerry Lewis for Jim Carrey. I can see the Steve Martin or Ryan
yeah,
Reynolds,
the dry, the deadpan, you know what I mean? Like, but witty humor.
Yeah, absolutely.
I love it.
So it's it's incredible like that. And I'll tell you, last night we got to see The Weeknd, again, one of my
Which I was
favorite artists.
overdressed for.
Yes. Yeah. She was okay, so context for everyone. There was three of us that went. Michelle's best friend,
She
as
apparently
she's
did her research. I did not.
right.
She texted me and she straight up said, "I'm dressing like a," and I was like,
Mm.
okay. So
Hey, you know what? It was funny. I mean,
apparently I went dressed like a kindergarten teacher because I showed up wearing jeans and a t-shirt,
Snoopy t-shirt, by the way,
but it said ready for the
and you
weekend.
took out the E,
I,
so it was like perfect. No,
sorry, I was okay. Maybe that's my smart and humor. But
Hey,
anyway,
I'll take it any day. I'll promise you. I take it any day.
but I felt like I was overdressed. I felt like I was the kindergarten teacher because everyone was dressed like a hoe and I wasn't.
Oh no. Hey, I'll tell you this much, right? Even though like Roberta,
No regrets though.
I know. I know. And we had a great time. It was phenomenal. I think it's definitely one of the best experiences, or at least top three experience concert wise, that I ever went to. The show, the lights, the crowd's sound, it was like deafening. Like at one moment there was so much cheering that it was like inside my head. It was so loud. And I was like, wow, I don't think I've ever experienced something to that magnitude. And just the energy in the room was something you can't articulate in words. But I will say this: there were some girls that were definitely dressed. I don't know how I want to call it, but definitely a little skimpy. Things were hanging out,
There was
and
a lot of stuff hanging
oh,
out.
there was a lot. You must have been looking more than me. I'll tell you though. I
I
think,
thought I was making fun of it
yeah,
by ripping off my shirt and taking a picture with my best friend in my bra.
right.
And then she posted it on the internet.
Well, that's how it
And I woke
happens.
up this morning with 3 new friend requests. I
Oh,
was just like,
three guys. Look at you. That's what happens, man. You put yourself out there and the world starts knocking.
uh-huh.
Oh my gosh. So yeah, the weekend was fun. We woke up today and we had some coffee and it was nice to kind of reminisce on it. Some of the things
Doing
that
this with a headache.
oh, I know, right? The dog's been looking at us funky all day. He's underneath the table right now. I can hear him. But it was great. I'm very thankful that we got to go. We got a beautiful suite.
Mm.
Shared it with some. We made friends. Made all types of friends that night.
Uh-huh.
And I was able to commandeer some goodies for the suite, which was nice. And I hope we get to go to another concert of that level. Obviously, someone new. I think Michelle, you want to see Pink, which you haven't seen yet.
She's on my bucket list. And if I like she will become a concert regret if I don't touring or whatever, you know?
Hundred
Because
percent.
I've been a fan since that first album that she didn't write and didn't like because she didn't write.
Didn't you say it's her worst or she least favorite
Her least
album?
favorite because
Yeah.
she didn't have any hand in writing it. I get it.
Yeah, I can see that. I feel like pop singers when they're contractually obliged, like they'll make songs and you can kind of hear how forced it is, especially
Yeah.
when they come into their own in their junior or senior album. A lot of the times that first one is all record company. Um, yeah. Pink we'll have to go see Pink.
And
I
that's the thing too, is I'm not a pop music. I would say like one of my outliers. You know what I mean?
but is she still considered pop? I always thought she
Yeah, I
was a
think
little
so.
okay.
I think she's considered pop for sure.
Yeah, she's fun. I know a couple songs by her. I think you and Nicholas are probably the
Probably more him than me.
yeah, the big fans. And I think that's kind of what we were feeling last night, right? Like you know some of the Weeknd's like songs, but I think it's also me and Roberta are probably a little bit higher up on that fan love. But
Yep.
man, you were getting into
Which
it.
could explain why I didn't know how to.
Hey, I think you did fine, okay? Compared to some of the things that we saw last night, I think you were fine. I couldn't believe it. We were leaving the concert. Of course, me being the merchandise guy, I was like, "Oh, t-shirt," The guy, I don't know how he guessed it. He's like, "Oh, double XL, here you go." I'm like, I didn't even tell him. And he was like, "Here's the right shirt for you." I'm like, "Cool." I'm walking. This is how cool everyone is. I'm walking. The shirt apparently was on my shoulder because the guy had put it on there. And I'm walking, and I were probably a couple blocks, and then someone goes, "Hey, your shirt fell." And I was like, "Man, that's stand up at people, especially considering the vibe that was going on last night. Everyone was turned up.
Oh god.
I mean, it was a scene. Um, anyways, jumping from concerts, I wanted to talk about the promotion. Same day yesterday. Um, some of you guys know, I do jujitsu. Michelle does jujitsu. The kids do jujitsu.
Poorly.
Yeah. And right. And I tell the kids, and just like I tell Michelle, I never think about when the next promotion's coming. I don't think about whether it's a stripe or a new belt. I just enjoy it. It's just for me.
Should be you're if you're looking at the next promotion, not trying to get better.
Right? Like, then it just feels like you're trying to get to black belt, and you don't care what skill you get along the way. And we get a quite a bit of pushback on the quality of training that you can get. But I've always contested that the training is also the individual. Like, you can learn jujitsu from anybody ultimately. Anyone who's black belt, you know, but I'm sure even lower ranks, brown, purple, people have knowledge, and I don't think it's a certain point of entry that has to happen. But for me, it's always been intent. Like, if I find an area that I'm not good in, then I train that
Practice
area. You know what I mean? Like, what's an area that you don't like right now in jujitsu? Like, it's a
in
tough area.
jujitsu.
Yeah.
Somebody gets me in side control, I'm pretty much hooked. I mean, I'm not a big person. It's hard to bridge out of things like that, especially if they have better pressure than
Especially when you have to frame, like you're trying to
yeah.
frame with this part of your
It doesn't matter though.
your
If you have
arm.
good pressure, Serenity is smaller than me, but she has amazing pressure. If I get under her side control, I'm in trouble.
You know, you wouldn't think it, well, looking at her, right? Because she's not like a stocky kid, right? She is very strong, and I noticed that she gives you very little space
Mm-hmm.
so that you can,
That's what it is.
hip
It's
escape or
the
get into
technical
any kind of
thing.
thing.
It's the
Yeah.
technical thing. Because if I'm rolling with Evie, I can move her around easy.
Yeah. You know what's funny with Evie? She'll commit her weight over one side or the other. So I'm just
Fast.
like, I can kind of rotate her.
Yeah.
But then if I rotate her and she catches it, to your point, she'll circle around. She
Yeah.
she is lightning. She's hard to catch. One of the positions I absolutely cannot stand right now is I've actually started to fall in love more with open guard. I think there's so much opportunity attacking the legs and just kind of coming in for connections. I like try to make at minimum two connections. I know four is the goal, but I absolutely hate it right now because when I go against someone who's faster than me, they'll grab my ankles and they'll throw me back, and I'm in a supine position, and I'm trying to come back up. But these guys can, they'll get around me, and I'm like, I'm trying to frame, and I'm trying to do this, and I'm trying to hip escape, and I realize I have to be patient. There's a good friend of mine who trains at another gym, Checkmat in Moreno Valley. He just tells me, trust your coach, just keep going with it, and just you'll have those days where you feel like you're not progressing. You just feel like you're in this steady training regime, and it's like, oh, am I actually skill acquisition? And it is hard. I definitely think blue belt is the honeymoon period's over. Now you're trying to figure out yourself a little bit more. White belt to blue
Sure.
belt, and you're in that journey right now. I think you're still feeling it's like, oh, jiu-jitsu is cool, and I'm still learning. I know how to do new arm bars,
I
like, you know.
okay.
You're like, no, it's not.
I've gotten in my car and driven home crying more times than I'd like to admit, which I just did right now, but
Like, when you're crying, are you crying because you didn't submit someone? Or are you crying because you got submitted? Like, what's the crying over?
I feel like you suck.
Right.
You're constantly going over in your head what you could have done. It's like when you have an argument with somebody and then you're going over in your head, you're just mad at yourself. Like, I had this really great comeback I should have said, and I didn't say it.
Yeah.
I'm thinking of it now,
Yeah.
but
It's
not
like,
then.
why wasn't I was right there with it? That's so real.
You think of the great comebacks after the fight's already over, and
Yeah. You know what's funny? When I have some times where I'll go to practice, and I have the saying, like, either I'm the nail or I'm the hammer, right?
yeah,
And when I roll against my buddy Eddie, who's fantastic, and I'm very excited for him next week. I think he's getting his purple belt. Fingers crossed for Mr. Eddie El Sugar. But he's a fantastic partner, and we were rolling in Nogi the other day, and man, we were just nice exchange going on back and forth, right? And out of nowhere, he does this Barambola like back attack, and I'm like, he grabbed my back, and you got to remember, Eddie and I are really big guys. Eddie is much taller. What would you say? Eddie's about 6'3"?
Yeah.
Yeah, and he's definitely like over 210,
Yeah.
220,
Oh,
right?
yeah.
I'm 5'11" and I'm like 280, all right? So him being able to roll me that way and get my back was like, that's phenomenal. And of course, respect, like we don't move as fast as someone or as agile as someone as 160 or 150. But we're pushing ourselves, which is great. I wanted to jump into some of the channel's progress. We've I got a book that I wanted to share with everyone that I just released. But before I get into the book, part of this narrative arc that I've been doing, and it's just kind of touching on it a little bit here, because this is a more of a free form podcast today. We're not really going to dive too much into these concepts that we talk about daily, but it's a narrative arc. It's in its seventh week. Monday it'll be its eighth week, and then it wraps up at 10, and then we're going to move into a different format. But
Well, we can touch on it a bit. Why don't you talk about it?
yeah, I mean, the biggest thing is like this week has been kind of revealing about certain content that seems to hit well with people, because there's more likely to kind of understand the root or the core of the message. So this one was called, week 7 was reprogramming. Reprogramming your code, reprogramming yourself, and these are all like metaphors about the terminal that runs in your mind. You're issuing commands, maybe thoughts, and these basically become how you hold yourself. So if you say things like, "I'm not good," and "I'm terrible," and "I'm bad," right? This is code that's being executed like a script that just keeps firing off in your psyche. And then the that I'm trying to give people this week is, hey, you know, if there's bad code in there, let's audit the code that doesn't serve us, and let's put in new code that's in there. Um, some of the code writing I've watched you do, Shell, just because I want to pick on you as a little example, is the amazing progress you've had this last couple months, right? I know that there's always things about our bodies and things that we always want to improve, but I'm very happy of your progress. You've lost weight. You look great. You're stronger than I've ever seen you. And I've known you for a couple of decades now, so I think I'm qualified to know how you're going. But how do you feel about that journey? Has it been? I know it hasn't been easy, but looking at where you are now and the strength that it took to get there, seems like you were writing some new code for yourself.
Yeah, it feels good. I just wanted to get healthier, but little things. When I started weights with you, I didn't, because I've lifted weights before in the past, but, and on and off, done small amounts of weightlifting, not like a,
Yeah.
but now that we have an established routine, I noticed, the difference in my jujitsu,
But
in
yeah,
in the strength level that I didn't have, and I know it has to. So, it's the little things. I guess rewrite a code, out your routine. Mm.
it's kind of like
And
those
watch the progress off.
100%. I mean, some of the habits, some of the code that you were writing was, you were eating certain foods, right?
Yes, I've changed.
And you were going in that, and then you redirected it. Like it is very interesting to watch how you eat now, because you're very conscious of everything you're putting in your body versus just like, oh, you know what? I like rice. I like bread. I like that sweet over there. I'll take this and that. I seen you being very methodical. Even this morning when we woke up, and I know we're like dealing with the previous night's adventure. You're like, yeah, I'm going to make sure I eat this. I'm not going to mess up my progress. And I think it's that active thinking and saying, hey, I'm taking control of my life. I'm no longer just a passenger. Matters. I wanted to ask you real quick. Um, the couple things. One, you say you like weightlifting, right? We go in weightlifting. What is it about the weightlifting that you've kind of fallen in love with that keeps you motivated to keep going back?
Well, like I said, I've noticed the progress that I'm able to in jujitsu. I used to, and so I know it's working. That's how I know it's.
Right. And would you challenge that notion that strength doesn't matter? I mean, we hear it a
Uh,
lot from a lot of
I
people.
hate that
Yeah.
notion, and I'm sorry, I might get a little bit of backlash
That's
or
okay.
whatever,
Right.
I'll die on this hill. Say, "Oh, jujitsu so that a small guy can beat a." You have to no. You still need to have strength. You can be a small guy, but you better be strong as hell.
I've noticed that.
You wanna beat a big guy because size matters. Size matters.
Yeah, and you know what? The one thing I have found out in my journey with you and solo too is I get the concept like jujitsu was created so that a smaller person could defend themselves or even potentially um, defeat someone who's much larger and stronger than them. So I think that notion still applies, but I think where it's a little bit gray is what if the other person, right, knows just a little bit of jujitsu,
People have great technique,
right?
and, I get that. So, I'm not throwing shade on that at all.
You know.
But why do you think in comp that they size you up, weight and your height? Because if they're gonna put somebody my size with somebody your size, you're gonna beat me, no matter how
Well,
good my technique is.
well, and see, here's the thing: you could challenge it the other way. I mean, there's some great professors that we know in the area, right? And I guarantee you, if I rolled with them, no matter how big and strong I am, that guy's going to beat me up.
He has better technique. I
100%.
get
So
that.
there is a level of technique that has to be attained.
Yes, you have very good technique, and I'm not calling out any names here, but in you roll with black belts where if you do get in their side control or something or you have a hard time.
Yeah.
I've seen it.
Yeah.
Okay? I've seen it. They have a hard time as much technique as they have if you put your pressure down on them just because of your size, your weight, your muscle mass, not gonna happen.
Yeah, and I'll tell you this: strength gets a lot of abuse into the jujitsu community because no one really attacks agility, speed,
Because they're all
flexibility.
because strength is important too.
I think so too, and I want to agree. I want us to go back and say I do agree with you. I think strength has to be there. I think part of training in jujitsu, and I think this is what I love. We're going to even today we're going to go to the gym after the podcast.
Oof.
Um, well,
Oh,
that's what the sauna's for. Okay. Um, but one other thing is strength conditioning, right? Making sure that your body can handle the resilience. There's a couple of purple belts I know, right? And this gentleman, right? He's so durable. I mean, he trains all the time. He's at the zombie class at 5 a.m. in Riverside, and I tell you, yeah, you know what I'm talking about. And I gotta tell him, he's so durable, and he's got a good thing going on at his like little farm area. Everyone's training there. I love that, and I have mad respect for him. I That's why we strength train. Honestly, it is to get stronger, but it's also to keep our bodies strong from the abuse of training because it's hard on your body. I mean,
I'm not gonna name names, but I got stacked by someone twice my size and my back killing me for
for a couple of days, right? And then the Tiger Balm ain't helping either, right?
no.
No, I'll tell you this: when I get stacked, and it happens once in a while, right? Because a couple of the coaches and coaches' brothers are big guys too. If I get to a point where it's just like, hey, it's not worth it, I'm like, pass my guard. Then, all right, then I'd rather try to fight this battle over here now than getting rolled up on my back or my neck. That's my biggest concern. I'm gonna pinch a nerve, or I'm gonna, something's gonna click in a bad way. Like I worry about your back right now because I don't want you to get hurt. I don't want you to be
Better
injured.
today.
Yeah, but
Least of my worries right.
the least of your worries. Slippery slope. Anyways, speaking on the gym, I wanted to kind of take everyone down a story that happened to us recently. So we train jujitsu and we train judo, right? We did a little bit of wrestling. We do love wrestling. It's just right now, whatever the path is that the family's on, we're just trying to navigate it. I hope the kids do wrestling. I think we got some really great coaches out there. Um,
Has to do with scheduling and that.
it
So
really
if
is,
there's
and
a pin in it, it's just we'll get back to it once.
100%. But
Of it.
some great coaches out there from a couple of the schools, and it's fun that I get to interact with those guys when I see them. But the one thing that we do train as a family together and we like going to is the UFC gym. It's a very unique gym. As someone who used to go to 24-hour fitnesses, and I mean, I went to Gold's Gym, Powerhouse gyms, training just powerlifting or bodybuilding, and then of course the sports gyms like 24, LA Fitness. But the UFC gym, to me, and I think to you, Michelle, has just been so great for us. It's like the vibe that we like to train in, right? Yeah. And a year ago we had bought memberships for the whole family. It was a Father's Day event, and we walked in there a year ago, and it was like, hey, we're gonna get memberships, and that's where our story is going to take us. So we signed up under good faith. I don't judge books by their cover. I prefer to read the pages and the chapters and assess people based on their merit. Like, I I get it all the time. I look a certain way. People categorize it. They don't want to see past surface level. And with this guy, right, he probably could look like to some as someone you wouldn't want to do business with. Maybe it's too thuggy. Maybe it's too, looks too much surface level, like someone you wouldn't want to hang out with. But that's not what I do. The vibe's good. The energy's good. I go with that. And unless you give me a reason not to trust you, we're all on the same team. Well, fast forward a year, right? And we're training. We're going there a lot. Michelle's making progress on her weight, and the family's enjoying him. So renewal's coming up, and the thing is, I say to the guy, I reach out to him because he's on my Instagram, and I say, hey pal, it's coming up. We talked last year. Let me look into it. Now, mind you, it was like a Thursday, Friday, and our membership was going to get canceled on like a Monday, Tuesday. So I was giving him a heads up, like, hey, just make sure this is all on the up and up because this is a large reason why we joined. And it was like day after day, I was getting one excuse after another. Oh, I'll look into it. Oh, I try to call you back and you didn't pick up, and then I call him back, and then it's like, oh yeah, I'll look into this, or I'll have someone touch the file. A week goes, our membership has been canceled because it's expired, and there's no resolution. So I go down to the UFC gym. I'm a very proactive person. I don't, not that I like confrontation so much, but I don't like to sit on things unresolved. I think you are the same way, Shell. So I went down there and I talked to the gym, and then they redirected to me to this gentleman named Caden. Good kid. I really like him, and him he'll come out being one of the good ones in this story here. But I said, look, this is what we're promised. He told me there's no such thing as a $50 renewal. It's outside their pricing structure. It's not something that they would offer. My thing is, someone did offer it to me. My wife heard it. I heard it. It's not an illusion. It's not my word versus their word, right? This is what we were told. And my biggest thing is,
And we had it in writing in text thread. Had emails that had it in writing that happened.
they didn't have it in the file. And
It was in the contract. He
right.
put it in.
And let it be a lesson to anyone out there, right? No matter how good a deal sounds, and I'm sure this is going to sound obvious to a lot of you, but to those it doesn't. Um, Verbals are not as good, obviously, as written. And if you can get it written, and if the person has no objective, right, it should be a problem. We were told it was on the up and up. Seemed like a fair deal, and I'd like to try to give people the benefit of the doubt, and I will continue to do that, whether that's naive or not. Doesn't really matter to me because I want to see the good in people.
Offered us a deal that was outside of their pricing. And it was in emails, but not in the contract, and that is what it is. And
Yeah, and that's all it really was. It
yeah,
was you know it was a price that was what we were getting
right.
was more aligned with what we wanted. So, anyways, going through all of this, um, I I was instructed by the gentleman Kate in there to reach out to Shauna. Shauna was also a good one in this story. Let her know our situation. Shauna, if you're listening to the podcast, sorry to have to message you or email you during your travels. I did not know who to escalate to. I was given your name, so I went to you. Um, but what happened, guys, is of course she looked at the file. The file did not have the thing that we were after. And I said to her, I said, I'm happy to have a conversation. My wife can be there. She can vouch for it. Um, you know, we like the gym. We want to train there. That's all there is to it. But we don't like. I told her specifically, I don't like being lied to. I don't care if what you have to tell me is something terrible. I don't care. And it's just to me, I would rather deal with terrible than deal with something that's not real. Because if it's not real, I don't know how to defend it. I don't know how to protect it. I don't know what to do. And the upside in all this is that she responded and she said, "Look, we're going to do right by you. We're going to honor the thing that was said, even though this is not within our arena. But next year it's going to be the regular, you know." And I thought that was stand up. I thought, hey, if you just go and bat for yourself sometimes, and if you go and push, like I was relying on someone to do it. Clearly, they did not have our interests at heart. But by going in there, I was taking a shot. She could have still said no. She could just have said, "Hey, you know what? Sorry, it's
That's
not
not
in
how we do
there.
business. Yeah.
It's not how we do business. It's this price." And but that's not how we got treated. We got treated fair, and it doesn't always happen. Okay, there have been many times I can attest. I've gone down those roads and I've been met with, "This is our policy. This is how we do it. We do it by the book." And I will say kudos to UFC Gym, Shauna and Caden, right? You guys are real ones. You guys looked at a family. You know that we go to the gym. You know that we buy things from the gym, like I think I like their Muay Thai punch. That's one of my favorite post workouts. And we want to continue to go. But you guys treated us right. And if you're listening, Caden, Ashana, thank you so much. Thank you for me, Michelle, and the kids. We'll be there today to train. And that was my story. So preserve, go through it. You know, never think that just by attempting is automatic. No, you might surprise yourself. So, all right, switching gears. Channel progress. So we've been growing, right? We're up to I think 72 subscribers, which is amazing. Um, our views, I think total views is over 30,000, something crazy like that. The shorts are picking up. Definitely, I can tell certain themes work better with groups of people than not, and that's all learning and progressing. Still trying to find my rhythm in it all. But one thing I was able to do during the channel progression is I was able to release a book, and I'm going to share that with you real quick. So, um, The Spells We Speak is a book that I basically came up with based on this idea of the letters in the alphabet. And what it is, it's one word per alphabet letter, right? A to Z, that talks about the duality of a word, right? So what the word means in our society and what the word does to our subconscious mind, right? And I've always had this notion in my head, like the language we speak was created after things like Latin, Greek, and it's such a universal language now. Like we accept English as this universal language of how we communicate, but to me, the language is riddled with spells that we say to each other, to ourselves. So when I decided to get this book out there, right, I wanted just to highlight A to Z, one word a piece, right? How the word can affect us. So if you're interested, definitely check it out on Amazon.com, right? Spells We Speak. My first book, right? We got some pictures in here, right? You know, little pictures and a breakdown. Pictures on this side, breakdown on this side. It's an easy read. I know that in our generation, we have a lot of people who can't be afforded to read 300-page books, and I can definitely have gone a lot farther than the 57 pages that I put together here. But I think it was a good starter entry. I'm working on a second book. I'll tease that out on another podcast, another time. But as of today, we've had three book sales. Very appreciative. I know one of the individuals who bought my book day one, and I really appreciate the support. It goes a long way. Helps me understand, like, hey, I can really rewrite the things that I want to do because ultimately, this is what I want to do with my life. I want to talk to people. I want to travel, and I want to engage on conversations that are beyond the pale. Not just, hey, how's the weather? How's your kid doing? More like, how are you doing? And what's new with you? And what are your struggles? Which I think that kind of leads us into our next topic, right? World events. Now, when I put this on our agenda to talk today, I was like, okay, there's a lot going on in the world and it's pretty scary. But I think this is the time where I'm going to listen more than talk because I think you, Michelle, you have some things that you might want to, you know, talk about. I think in particular, and I'll set the stage at least for our audience, what's going on in Iran, you know, and how that affects someone like you who has previously mentioned on this podcast on in the first episode, you grew up Iranian. You're an American, but you grew up with Iranian culture. So, how is what's going on in the world today with Iran impacted where you are right now?
Always interesting. Like one half, you know, heard a comedian saying that half and half. It's like this particular comedian is full Iranian and moved here from Iran, but he identifies as American citizen. You know what I mean? Hasn't been there since he was a kid. He's like, so it's like both sides are fighting, like, oh, am I American? Am I Iranian? Should I trust myself? Or maybe I'm building bombs, you know?
Right.
It's interesting. No, just jokes aside. The people of Iran have wanted their free before I was born, you know, since the Shah was over. I don't want to get too political. I've I've heard all about my dad was a big Shah supporter. There were plenty of families and most of them who are either supporters or in any way connected to the Shah. Maybe they were friends with him, maybe they were family, maybe, friend of a friend, whatever. So many of them when I was a kid were here on political asylum because if they stayed in Iran. So, you know, that's just how regime change happened. And we're living history.
It's pretty scary. When as a Westerner, right? Me myself growing up in America, right? We were taught this really like interesting catchphrase as a child: "Peace in the Middle East." That's what we kept hearing, right?
Well,
And it
because it's never been.
because it's never been
Yeah, I mean, yeah, they've been fighting over that same area of land.
right. And what's kind of crazy about it, right, is like we're in the year 2025, and that hasn't slowed down.
Nothing has changed.
It's gotten worse in some respects. Um,
And it's very hard to navigate because I do have family there. And I want to make sure that they're safe. And I've been trying to check them and but and whether or not this is true or not, I saw something saying don't contact people in Iran and and talk politics with them at all, like in any way, because their phones are being, and that puts the onus on me to not put her in that position. So I haven't been checking on and none of them because I'm worried. I don't know whether or not that's the thing. Are they monitoring phones? Are they throwing people in America? You know, you never know because the kind of rules that they've had in place in that regime for the past 46 years have been very extreme. I've known women that have been thrown in jail for wearing makeup, for being in public with a man that wasn't, you know, I mean, all kinds of things. They'll shoot your eye out. I mean, in some of these
Oh, so what do you?
reports?
Yeah, I mean, of course, I sing with you, and of course, we know our family there is literally. I think one of the message it scared us pretty bad that one night. You were talking with them. I won't name names for the sake of their privacy and keeping them safe. But when they said that the bombs were coming down in Tehran, right? And they said their house was literally shaking.
Mhm.
We were freaked out for them, right? We were scared.
I can't even imagine that we're here. Can you imagine that? Can you imagine how,
It seems to
your
me
house is shaking, it's not an earthquake.
right. It's literally the vibration of the ground getting hit up or a building getting
And for
destroyed.
context, I grew up here in
The bombs would scare me.
that would scare me.
Oh yeah, and and then there's and this probably aggravates me as a Westerner who fell in love with an Iranian woman, understands their culture, the real culture, not the extremism that currently resides there.
So important to mention the people of Iran do not represent the regime and vice.
And yet they are the ones who are going to pay the price because of this
They've
in
been
between.
paying the price for nearly 50 years.
Right.
So if there is going to be another regime change in the right direction, I am hopeful for that. But at the same time, do we want there to be war? I mean, the problem is no change is effected without war. Have you ever seen it happen?
No, anytime we've ever wanted things to topple a certain way or change, 180 kind of scenario, it has to be done by force. I haven't, I think our country prides itself on this idea of exchange of powers every 4 years when it comes to a presidential. Not every country runs that way. There is regimes that will, to the day they die, hold on with it with their death grip, right, and refuse to see it go. And I really hope that the Iranian people um, get the regime change that they deserve. When you go back,
This man that's in charge,
yes, sir.
look at the way that he gained his authority. He did it through usurping the Shah. You see what I'm saying?
Yep.
Like it had to be done through that revolution in 79, 78, 79, right? In order for him to, for his family to take over the country and institute this regime and this new way of governance for their country. Okay.
That's right.
So the only way to, do you think he would just give it up? Like Trump is going to say, hey, you need to step down. Going to do it?
Be like, here's the key to the
I read, and
palace.
I saw
Not
something
gonna do
very
it.
interesting that I actually didn't think of it this way, but
Hmm.
after I saw this, I was like, that makes a lot of sense. A guy like this is not going to just step down. He's going to need to be killed. Okay? But he can't be killed by uh his own people. It has to be his own people. I'm sorry. He has to be killed by his own people. Otherwise, he looks like a hero, right?
So what you're saying is, if the Americans go in there and kill him,
He looks
right?
like
Then
looks like a hero.
he looks like a martyr to his
Yeah.
cause,
Yeah.
right? As opposed to if we
His own people are the ones. If the Iranians are the ones to take him down, which that's the way it needs to go.
right,
They're the ones who take him down, then he doesn't get to die.
right, he basically is fed to the same people that he was killing and
Right.
his regime was killing. That's why I wanted to touch on this because it came up, and I remember showing you the clip when these individuals said this, which I find extremely troublesome. Right? We know that there's this show called The View. We know that these women get together and they conversate over world topics, but
I know
they
where you're going.
right, and I think it's extremely ignorant to be quite honest with you. I
You
saw
have to say it though for context, like what was said.
Yeah. Oh, well, so what was said is Whoopi Goldberg got up there and said that there was two comments. This was by Whoopi Goldberg. Um, she basically said that what it's like living in America as a black woman, right, is the same of what it's like for an Iranian woman live there currently. And
That's not a fair comparison.
right, and I want you, I don't want to say it because this is your culture, your people. Help the Westerners, the people who don't understand, because no doubt when it was days of slavery and all that, 100% would agree, terrible time to be a black person, let
Still
alone
terrible. It's still a terrible time to be a minority in this country. Still,
wait.
okay? That's hasn't changed. Okay, it's gotten better, but it hasn't changed all that much.
Well, what
It's
would you,
still tough. I
well,
agree.
what would you say to the Westerner who doesn't understand that what it's like for
All I'm saying is
Iranian?
you cannot compare it to an Iranian woman living in Iran under that regime. Here in America, you have rights. Yes, some like your journey is going to be difficult because there are plenty of people who live here in the United States that still have closed minds, right? But you're not living in Iran where it's illegal to wear illegal to show your hair. There are so many things in Iran living as an Iranian woman that if I were to even get into it, that it's illegal to do. You can be imprisoned, you can be killed, you know. Did you know that if you cheat on your husband when you're in Iran, they kill you? They will kill you.
The
Yep.
the stoning, I think they
It's
stone you.
law. They'll kill
Okay.
you.
All
Yep.
right. But for people to understand the parallel, right? Let's take what Whoopi Goldberg said here for a minute, okay?
Will
If
you be killed here in America if do you see what I'm saying? Like,
I
how
don't,
do you compare that? Can you be killed for that? No.
well, I know some would argue, you know, minorities, right? The group that's, like you said, that's currently under fire, right?
Yeah.
A lot of things going on. We're tackling the Iranian thing. There's other world events going on right now too that we can get into, but I want to hone in on the fact that if let's just play a game here. If an Iranian woman was to come to America and a African black woman was to go to Iran, right? And let's just say we play the old switcheroo, right? Whoopi Goldberg goes to Tehran tomorrow. Do you think the way that she acts presents herself, would that be passable in that culture or that regime that exists? And if not, what would be some of the things that she could face punishment or even potentially death
In
over?
Iran, a woman is a woman, regardless of their color. So she's gonna be the same as an Iranian woman chador or a white woman in a chador, same way
Right? So what does that mean?
as the bottom citizen.
And what happens to the bottom citizens of women in Iran
There
right
are
now?
all the rules that women have to obey in Iran compared to the men. It's just not it's not the same. Here in America, you have rights. That's why I'm saying that's why you can't compare it.
Well, what would happen to Whoopi Goldberg if she
If you were
was,
to go to Iran,
yeah.
like I said, if she didn't follow every little rule, listen, I have a friend who went to Iran because her mother died. Okay? She's been living here since she was a kid. Incredibly Western. So she went back to Iran with her grandmother because her mother passed away. And she went to attend services, whatever. And when they were leaving, okay, first of all, she was holding hands with her father in public, and he let go of her hand and said, "You'll get arrested. Don't hold my hand because they don't know I'm your father, and there's a good chance they could come after you." Couldn't even hold hands with her own father in public. Okay, got on the plane to come home. Okay, and as soon as she got on the plane, she took off that scarf, and they said, "You can't take that off until Iranian airspace." And she's like, "What are they gonna do? Turn the plane around?" They would. You have to put that thing on and leave it on until you leave Iranian airspace. That's how strict it is.
I think that's why I wanted you to kind of help illuminate it for the audience out there. You don't have the ability to go there and speak your mind. You speak your mind, you're going to get in trouble. You disobey your husband, the man in the hierarchical system, you're going to lose your potentially. If you are out of if you're out of scope, performing the Iranian duties as a woman in that society, again, punishment is severe. We we were watching the uprising. I think it was about a year ago, maybe even longer, right? Where Iranian women, what were they doing? I think they were cutting their hair or they were protesting.
The chadors off
Right.
and just hair
E.
be free. Yeah, just be yeah, being free. Like it was a protest against them having to,
Right.
but for a bigger reason. Just for women's rights in general, not just the hair. You know what I mean?
And I think that's what people have to understand. Like this regime is totalitarian. It is one that is not fair to everyone in the system. Um,
Genociding people. I
yeah,
don't think people know that there is a large because people think of Iran and they think everybody's Islamic. They're not. The country is run under an Islamic regime.
yeah, but for
Okay,
those, but
but
for
there is a huge portion of Iranian Jews who live in Iran. Okay, there is a faction that people don't realize exists. There are Iranian Jews out there. Okay, there used to be 80,000. There's 10,000 now, and they're currently killing them all. If they're living in Iran, rabbis and whatever, they're rounding them up. They're killing them. I read it this morning. They're genociding all Iranian Jews that live there.
it's incredibly sad. I mean, you think that we're progressing as humans and the total scene, but when you hear these kind of things still happening today, I don't know if we are further ahead or we're further behind.
Oh
Feels like
no,
we're further behind.
and in this country too. And I'm sorry to say it, but the whole birthright thing,
Yeah.
complete lunacy. And how far do we take that down that rabbit hole? Okay, take the instance of a person who was born on an American military base. I really read it this morning. Man was born, but was never given American citizenship. He's been living here his entire life.
What happens to him?
Deported him.
Wow. He's been here his whole life. So
Yeah,
he's thought up until that point, I'm an American. This is who I am.
correct.
Now
And
you're
that's why
telling
I'm
me I
saying
got to go
how
back
far.
to Germany?
That's why I'm saying how far down this rabbit hole do we go? Okay, if you're gonna make a law now and say, hey, if you are a person who was born to two non-documented people, and or I think is it one or both?
Well, I from my understanding is
Both
the birth the
non-documented.
birth the birth citizenship is, let's say you're a woman that's born in America.
No, I know. I'm saying is it both parents undocumented or just one?
I think it's one.
Okay.
Okay,
Well,
but don't quote me on it.
either way,
Yeah.
if you're not getting citizenship by being born here on our land, like that's always been the case. You're born here, you're a citizen, okay?
Yeah.
I was born here, I'm a citizen, okay? My dad was not born here, okay? But he was a citizen before I was born. So how far down this rabbit hole does it go?
And I think that's where to touch on that topic, I feel they should look at it as going forward, we're not going to allow it. Everyone
I
that's
hope so.
in,
Yeah.
your grandfather then. That I mean, to me, that makes the most sense.
Thank you.
If you start going, okay, well, guess what? We're going to go back to this one and this one. Well, to your point, Shell, everyone's going to get kicked out at some point. If we go
Right.
down to the lowest of lowest levels, right? We're going to have to go back to the point where this land, right, would belong to indigenous Americans, right?
Yes.
Native Americans, right?
Yes.
Now, I always see these debates. Well, when it came to Mexico, they sold it to the United States. Okay. But did we ever buy the land from the Indians? No. We took the land, took it over. Okay. And I would say that in order to just keep things progressing, because this is definitely not progression. This is like chaos, absolute chaos. Just make it simple. Beyond this point, birth citizenship, you know, won't be allowed, right? But have a cutoff period. You can't just say today. You need to say, okay, by 2030. So you got 5 years. You're gonna have some babies. You're gonna do it now. Okay. But I agree. I don't think it's a wise place to go for Americans or for people who want to come in, because
And
people
it
that
can be a situation. Look,
it's hard
I'm
situation,
putting myself out there by
right?
saying this, okay? because my dad's an Iranian citizen. Even though he had already gone through the channels and became a resident and a citizen before I was born. Okay, uh, because I was born here in America, anywhere in the world.
Right.
I could have been born in Germany, okay? But because I was born to an Iranian citizen, specifically my father, if it had been my mother, this would not. But specifically, I was born to an Iranian male. That makes me an Iranian citizen.
Right.
So I do have dual citizenship. I've never been to Iran and I don't speak Farsi, okay? Not very well anyway. I can
Right.
understand it,
A little bit here and there,
okay?
right? Yeah.
But I couldn't get along in Iran, okay? I have been asked my whole life, have you been there?
Hmm.
Especially by Iranian people too. They're like, it's so beautiful. Have you ever been there? I'm like, no, Harry, I can't go there. Okay. They know why. Americans, when they ask me that question, they don't know why. And I'm going to explain it right now. Okay. So because I have dual citizenship and I'm a female,
Mhm.
I travel to Iran. I can't leave that. I have the permission of my friend
Hmm.
or my father. Okay.
Right.
But on top of that, they're going to detain me because I'm now property of the state. Is that right? And I'm not allowed to leave because I need to get my Iranian passport before they let me leave. That could be weeks, that could be months. Now I'm stuck there. That's why I don't go. Are you kidding me? How much I would love to go to Iran and visit my families. I have family I've never met.
It just it's disgusting. It's so disgusting to me that we live in a society, right, that tries to parade itself as advanced, free, all of those things, and you can't even visit your family,
But by that
and they
logic,
can't even get out.
okay, so how far down did this birthright thing go? You see what I'm saying?
That's a great question.
You take a like I'm afraid to travel right now. So I'm like, they'll take one look at my passport and be like, well, you're sleepers, you know?
Yeah.
And then I
Um,
get what? Deported to a country that I don't speak the language of? I've never been to?
or you have no
How
understanding
far
how it
does this
runs.
go? That's what
Yeah.
I'm saying. Look, I know that
Imagine.
sounds ridiculous, but
Yeah.
look how much we've been doing in this country that we thought that's never going to happen, and it has.
And here we are. Like and that's it's something I've joked with your sister about a little bit. I'm like, um, multiple wars, pandemics, market crashing, like,
I saw something recently that was
and
supposed to be a joke, but it's like I'm tired of living through history. And
exactly.
we've lived through a lot of it.
I thought we were going to be the generation that had like very little to like, really get crazy about.
Started with the space shuttle, I'm telling you, and then it was
Mhm.
9/11 and it's all of it.
Right. And it's like, well, okay, that's why to me,
Advent of
life,
technology.
if whether it's a simulation or just programming that's being done by elites to change our reality field into these things that we have to go along for. I find it incredibly suspicious. Like I don't feel like that's how life is. I feel like life um is organic, right? But these events are constructed. Like they're being purposely pushed by people. They're being purposely set up. And I'm going, guess who pays for it? It's not these guys. These guys are going to benefit from it. But you, me, and everyone out there, we are the ones who pay for it. We got friends that can't even get out of their house right now because they're worried about getting picked up. We have friends that houses are freaking rumbling because of the bombs going off. We have friends that are in all types of situations and we love them and we support them
And
and
let's
we want
just
them
be
to be
clear right
okay.
now, because we're going to circle back to that part of it that Iranians are some generous, beautiful people I've ever met. And I'm not being biased because I'm not at all. I've they're so hospitable. They're not most Iranians that live in Iran are not in favor of the government that they're living on. They're not. They're hostages of that, plain and simple.
But what do you say to the other comment we heard on The View where she was saying, well, Iranians are uneducated people. They're not smart. How does that?
Lunacy, absolutely. I'm sorry, when was the last time that you went through the catalog of doctors to pick a new primary and half the names were Iranian? When we come here, we come with purpose. We come to build our empire here, our own personal empire. My dad did that. He came here, he came with an objective. You don't come here, I mean, anyone who comes here from another country is coming with an objective to like build a better life for themselves. But to build a better life for yourself and give back to the country that you're going to. That is what we do, right? Half the time you see Iranians, Indians, Asians, they're coming here, they're becoming doctors, lawyers, dentists, engineers, they're building, they're they're making the world a better. Does that make sense?
Makes sense to me. I've actually experienced that. Your father is someone I definitely would love to interview on the podcast because his story is so rich with adversity and strategy.
Just ignorant, any uneducated. Why? Because entrapped
I think
for
it's
50
I
years.
think it's ignorance on those with that kind of that audience or that kind of setup where they can pontificate and throw something as radical out there without even assessing the general populace. Like you might be taking a couple of them and saying this is everything, but yeah, I mean, how is that better than than on the other flip side you're arguing about, well, don't treat us all the same or don't look at us all the same. Well, you're literally completely taking an entire group of people and objectifying to this nonsense that they're what, idiotic, they're stupid, they're not smart. But yet the reality is these are some of the most hardworking people. They're some of the most accommodating,
So,
heartwarming people that you could ever meet.
but it's silly to me because the other countries of the world, they're seeing how we're running our government right now, and they think we're the fool. So it goes both ways.
Yeah. I you know,
I'm just saying that. I'm
govern
not trying to get into. Okay, that's all I'm saying
you're
about
fine. I
is that
just
they can look at it from the outside and think that these where they live, they could think we are too. See what I'm saying?
Yeah, I think criticism's going to get handed out no matter what. You could have a perfect system, and someone's going to find something to complain about. Oh, have this. My idea of a system is a little bit of both, right? Like I ultimately I believe as an individual you have a right to protect yourself. I don't think anything should come in between that. Your life is valuable, and when I hear stories about, well, you got to be cornered, or they have to hit you, or they have to shoot you, and it's like, wait, I'm literally don't want to die or get hurt. So I think like things like that need to be taken care of. But on the other spectrum, right? I'm always also thinking that things that bother me about the society or the system that's been created is people shouldn't have to people should have things that are base necessity. Like a whole founding principles is like inalienable rights, every man has is equal. Well, then let me ask you this, why don't we have that in practice? There's a ton of homeless people in our neighborhood, right? We see them. Okay, these people need help, they need help, they need counseling, they need something, right? But what they don't need is to be on the street. What they don't need is to be hungry. Now, it doesn't just apply to them, it applies to every one of us. We cannot get out of the rat race or the working mentality, right, that we're in because someone decided to put a price tag on water. Someone decided to put a price tag on electricity. Someone decided to put a price tag on food. And it goes on and on. Housing, healthcare. It is no longer a right to live, especially in this country, let alone others. It is a privilege to live. And the more money you have, the more privileged you are to live. And people need to wake up and think about that. Okay. Because that's where I lean this side. Okay. Oh, I'm talking about your guns and being able to protect yourself. Yes. Okay. There are some things I would say about that that need to be looked at. I don't think everyone should have a gun. I don't think crazy people should have guns. I don't think people who are unstable should have guns. I don't think people who are heavily medicated should have guns. Okay. It's the same thing as having a baby have a gun. They're not ready for it here. But when I look at the social programs, we have the capability. The sun is an energy source. So as far as electricity go, we could have it. And as far as food goes, right, we have rich soil. We have agricultural stuff that we can even do with machines. So a lot of the things that our system has created and pushed down our throats, and we've accepted it as a belief system that this is how we're going to live. And I wish we as people,
How's that any different than the living in Iran? Are they stupid because they've been told that this is how life is and you accept it?
right? And
How
if
does
they,
it make them stupid that makes them not knowing any different? They
right,
grew up in a culture, they were born into and grew up in this country where that is the way of life. same way that we were here. And it may seem bizarre to people outside of this country the same way it seems bizarre to us outside of Iran.
I agree. And I think that people don't realize like this life that you live is just the sandbox you're in. Move yourself from the sandbox. There's a different way of living. When you live in America, they push you to work until something goes wrong. And you are so replaceable here. Yeah. You may get all the degrees, have all the success, but as soon as you die, you're replaced. As soon as you get sick, someone's vying for your job. As soon as they realize that you're not cutthroat enough, right? They'll undermine you, right? They do these things. And why? Because they have bought into the rat race and they think, well, guess what? I'm just going to go harder than everyone else. I'm going to work harder than everyone else. Well, here's what's happening, right? You're working harder for this system, for them, not yourself. You might be the rat with the nicest car. You might be the rat with the nicest house. You might be the rat with the most plastic things that you can get from society. But despite all of that, you're still a rat. You're still a rat in the cage. And people don't understand, right? There is a different way of living. I see people, right? They're not in the United States, they're in different parts of the world, right? And they live with little, but they live fuller lives. I want that exchange to happen here. That's how I'll know if we actually turned it around. All right. Well, what's next for Outframe Podcasts? One of the last topics we're going to touch on today before we wrap up and head to the gym, because I know we got to go get our workout on. Outframe Podcast, we got another book I'm working on. We're going to start doing some interviews with some people locally. I've been asked by a few individuals to interview. I'd love to interview Michelle's dad primarily. There's also some people in our community. A really great kid who's got a very interesting backstory. He's about to turn 18.
I wouldn't say
100%. But I wanted to tease out the idea. He's a great kid, and he's going to be someone we want to have on the podcast. And we're actually going to his birthday in a couple weeks, right? Yeah. Yeah. So that's what's coming next on there. We're going to keep posting dailies. Our narrative arc is going to wrap up in a few weeks here, and then we're going to switch. I may read some of the spells from the spell book that just came out that I released. Check it out on Amazon when you can. Everything that you guys do for us, we get to put back in the channel. We want to build this thing up to such a powerful force that we can do really large community events, like being able to teach jujitsu. One thing I forgot to mention on that promotional thing, like, yes, got promoted a little bit on my journey to purple belt, but as of this week, I passed my ICP test so that I'm a certified coach in jiu-jitsu. Another way I'm trying to get back to this community, and I would love nothing more than to have an opportunity to take this platform, right, and not just interview people whose stories you'll never hear, because we only want to focus on celebrities and the known quantities, but also be able to push things back into the community, do some of these goodwill things, like maybe I can teach a community of people jujitsu, or maybe I can do some kind of fundraising event that brings awareness to something, whether it's mental health or food and drinks. It's silly that we have to do those things in our society, right? But my promise to you guys is whatever comes here, that's where it's going. Okay. My job is to try to get this to be sustainable so I can do it full time. Because as it is, Phil can tell you, we have to find pockets. My goal would be, if we could do this every day, we'd be traveling, talking with people all over the world. We'd start here locally, of course, and then start branching over. Me and Michelle have always thought that traveling is one of the best educational resources we have available to us, and it's free to go and talk to people. So hope you all enjoyed everything on Outframe Podcast. Thanks for coming out and listening to our episode 2 here. Glad to have you back, Michelle. Everyone was telling me how much they enjoyed you. So do you have any parting words before we wrap up?
no. I mean, I would love to see another Rat Pack though. So maybe next time.
Okay, I'll talk to the boys. See if we can get them all in a studio. I know we're doing this at home, but we're a bit mobile, a bit guerrilla. So everyone have a great rest of your weekend, and we'll see you for more on Outframe Podcast.